Welcome to another C1 Advanced ESL-lounge reading lesson video. Today we will be reading 4 critical analyses on the decline of traditional media and the different reasons experts give for this major shift. Let's begin with some vocabulary. Algorithmically, using a set of mathematical instructions or rules that, especially if given to a computer, will help to calculate an answer. Civic, relating to a town or city, or the duties and responsibilities of the people who live there. Conglomerate, a large business organization consisting of several different companies that have joined together. Consensus, a generally accepted opinion among a group of people. Discerning, showing good judgment especially about style and quality. Exacerbate, to make a problem that is already bad even worse. Gatekeeper, a person or group who controls access to something. Irrevocably, in a way that cannot be changed, reversed, or recovered. Monolithic, a very large, powerful, and characterless organization or system. Polarization, the act of dividing something, especially something that contains different people or opinions, into two completely opposing groups. Substantive, dealing with real, important, or serious matters. Unwarranted, not justified or authorized. Now you know the key words. Let's read the texts. You are going to read 4 analyses from critics discussing traditional media. Read them carefully to understand each critic's argument. Afterwards, you will answer 10 questions to check your interpretation of each analysis. Okay, let's start with text A. Sophie Patel. The slow erosion of traditional media is often lamented as a cultural tragedy, but I see it as a necessary, albeit painful, evolution. The monolithic authoritative voice of the single newspaper or broadcaster has been replaced by a chaotic but ultimately more democratic chorus of digital voices. The gatekeepers have lost their power, which means the public is no longer a passive recipient of a pre-packaged narrative. Of course, this democratization comes with the significant peril of misinformation, a challenge we are still struggling to navigate. Yet I contend that the previous era was not the golden age it is often remembered as. Its authority often masked a deep-seated institutional bias. We have traded the illusion of objective truth for the messy reality of a million subjective ones. While I mourn the loss of journalistic resources, I remain cautiously optimistic about a future where information flows more freely, even if it requires a more discerning public to consume it. This new ecosystem demands a more active and critical form of readership from everyone. End of text A. Let's continue. Samuel Jones. To attribute the downfall of traditional media solely to the rise of the internet is a dangerously simplistic analysis. The seeds of its own destruction were sown decades ago. In the newsrooms themselves, through a gradual but relentless prioritization of commercial interests over journalistic integrity. As media conglomerates grew, the pressure for profit hollowed out the very core of what made newspapers valuable: in-depth investigative reporting and specialist expertise. They chased ratings and circulation figures by favoring sensationalism and celebrity gossip over substantive, complex news. The relentless focus on short-term financial gains meant that long-term editorial vision was repeatedly sacrificed. The internet did not create the public's appetite for trivial content. It simply offered a more efficient and free delivery system for it. In essence, traditional media outlets abandoned their civic duty long before their audience abandoned them, leaving a vacuum that digital platforms were only too happy to fill. End of text B. Let's continue. Grace Harrison. What has been irrevocably lost with the fragmentation of traditional media is a sense of shared experience and collective identity. In the past, the nightly television news or the morning newspaper acted as a form of social glue, providing a common set of facts and a shared agenda for national conversation, even among those who disagreed. These moments of collective attention created a foundation for meaningful democratic discourse across ideological divides. Today, we exist in personalized information bubbles, our opinions algorithmically reinforced, and our exposure to opposing viewpoints minimized. This is not just a technological shift, it is a profound social one that exacerbates polarization and undermines the potential for consensus. The issue is not the quality of the journalism, much of which is still excellent online, but the loss of a common ground. We no longer inhabit the same informational world, and that is a terrifying prospect for the health of any democratic society. End of text C. Let's continue. Theo Morgan. The fundamental crisis facing traditional media is one of trust. For generations, established newspapers and broadcasters were seen as credible, authoritative institutions. But a series of high-profile failures and a growing perception of political bias have shattered that public confidence. People no longer automatically believe what they read in a major newspaper, and this skepticism is not entirely unwarranted. The erosion of this trust has been particularly acute among younger demographics who have grown up questioning institutional authority. Digital platforms have accelerated this trend, but they did not invent it. The problem is that while trust in old institutions has collapsed, no new, reliable filters have emerged to take their place. Instead, we have a chaotic landscape where a well-researched investigative report can be given the same weight as a baseless conspiracy theory. The challenge, therefore, is not to resurrect the old gatekeepers, but to build new systems of verification and credibility for the digital age. Okay, time for a few questions to check your understanding. Question 1. Which critic argues that the public's faith in established news sources has been broken? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is D. Theo Morgan. The text states that high-profile failures and a perception of bias have shattered that public confidence in established media. Question 2. Which critic believes that the problems in traditional media began long before the digital revolution? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. Samuel Jones. The text claims the seeds of its own destruction were sown decades ago, in the newsrooms themselves. Question 3. Which critic expresses anxiety about the social consequences of people consuming different realities? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is C. Grace Harrison. The text states that because we no longer inhabit the same informational world, this is a terrifying prospect for the health of any democratic society, which is a major social consequence. Question 4. Which critic suggests that the move away from a single dominant narrative is ultimately a positive development? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. Sophie Patel. The text describes the old authoritative voice being replaced by a chaotic but ultimately more democratic chorus, framing this shift as a positive, democratic evolution despite the problems it creates. Question 5. Which critic claims that traditional media's pursuit of profit was a major cause of its own decline? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is B. Samuel Jones. The text argues that the pressure for profit hollowed out the very core of what made newspapers valuable. Question 6. Which critic believes that the current situation requires audiences to be more analytical? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. Sophie Patel. The text concludes that this new ecosystem demands a more active and critical form of readership from everyone. Question 7. Which critic identifies the lack of a shared factual basis for discussion as the most significant loss? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is C. Grace Harrison. The text states the main issue is not the quality of journalism, but the loss of a common ground, which is a shared basis for discussion. Question 8. Which critic mentions the difficulty of distinguishing between reliable and false information in the current environment? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is D. Theo Morgan. The text gives the example of a situation where a well-researched investigative report can be given the same weight as a baseless conspiracy theory. Question 9. Which critic views the current media landscape as a more honest reflection of reality than what existed before? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is A. Sophie Patel. The text contrasts the illusion of objective truth of the past with the messy reality of today, presenting this new reality as a more honest, though more difficult situation. Question 10. Which critic proposes that the solution lies in creating new methods of ensuring accuracy? Pause the video now to think about your answer. The correct answer is D. Theo Morgan. The text concludes that the challenge is to build new systems of verification and credibility for the digital age. Let's quickly summarize the lesson. On this screen, you can review the main points of the text and the key vocabulary. Finally, here are a few discussion questions. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching this ESL Lounge video. Don't forget to subscribe for more lessons, and we'll see you in the next one.